Blog Talk Radio.
Live from the Talk Radio 49 studios in Little Rock, Arkansas, it's Bad Brad Hicks, Money Mike Carnahan, and of course, the pretty boy, Sean Castleberry. It's your weekly look at humorous top headlines and current events. It's the American Idiot Show. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It's the American Idiot Show, back on the air on our normal night, Monday night. And we've had a hell of a, 5 fucking days here in this country, Sean. We've got a lot to talk about. Not everything we're going to talk about tonight is Black Lives Matter, COVID-19, the protest, all that stuff. We're going to get into a few other things. But my God, five days, and it already feels like it's been a fucking month again, Sean, since the last time we were on the air. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's only been 5 days, right?
Yeah, we were on the air last Wednesday because of some scheduling issues we had. Of course, now we're back on our normal night, Mondays nights, so definitely happy to be back, but my goodness. I mean, there's been so much that has happened over the past 5 days. And Sean, really, I want to begin the conversation with last Friday and the presidential press conference in which Donald J. Trump, not only did he fucking move the press corps' chairs and arrange them in a way that they were not socially distancing. So automatically right off top, the dude is acting like a complete piece of shit. Complete piece of shit. But the man literally says the words, I believe, or today is a great day for America, and I believe that George Floyd is staring down from above, and he is smiling at the job we're doing, or I'm doing, or whatever the fuck he said. But the motherfucker actually said that shit, Sean Castleberry. Are we officially living in idiocracy, or what?
I really don't know. The things that he does, I don't even know how to question it. None of it makes sense. It's not quite insanity, because the guy definitely has an agenda, and he's working a certain angle, and he's trying to get things shown in a particular way from his point of view. And all he cares about is the re-election. I mean, you can just see that from all the posts and everything that he's talking about. Like this photo shoot that he did where they fired on the protesters to clear a path so that he could go over to a church and hold up the Bible. We talked about that, 5 days ago. To what you just said, how he said that George Floyd is looking down from heaven saying that we're doing a great job. And he has to know he's full of shit. He has to. He just, he's a con man. Straight, simple.
I'm to the point, Sean, where I'm laughing about it because if not, I'll cry. But the man, General fucking Mattis, came out and fucking bulldozed him. George W. Bush came out and bulldozed him. Fucking Mitt Romney was out there yesterday. Mitt fucking Romney. And I officially am so proud that I voted for that man in 2012 still. I'll be happy for that vote because that man was out there yesterday. How about that one? Of every fucking GOP senator, Mitt Romney was probably the last person I expected to be out there. Who's next? Tom fucking Cotton?
Right, I don't know. It's insane.
Literally,
Colin Powell,
I'm not surprised because I believe he kind of broke party ranks back in 2008 and voted for Obama, correct?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know that George Bush has come out and said that he's going to support Joe Biden, and a few other Republicans have said that they're tired of all the bullshit, that they're probably going to support Joe Biden. And then Colin Powell the other day, and I mean, it doesn't change anything. Trump has inflamed his base. He has all the evangelicals behind him. He has all the wackos like, Pence behind him. And, I think they want to put Trump in there because, they're hoping he'll die in the next 4 years and Pence can take over and actually try to create his theocracy that he wants.
I mean, literally, though, the scary thing is, Sean, and I've been thinking about this. So, back in the 80s, when Reagan was questioned about being a Democrat, he would always say, I didn't leave the Democratic Party left me. It is 2020, and I feel like that just happened with the Republican Party. I didn't leave the Republican Party. Some fucking crazy motherfuckers hijacked that sumbitch and fucking took it someplace I will never fucking go. You know what I'm saying? I completely feel like that just happened. But, I mean, to give you some context, everybody knows how unpopular George W. Bush was. And a lot of people remember George W. Bush. I mean, this was what? It has been officially 13 or so years since he was president of the United States. 12 or 13 years since he was president. And he put out a statement June 2nd, so that was roughly 6 days ago. He put out a statement. He says, Laura and I are anguished by the brutal suffocation of George Floyd and disturbed by the injustice and fear that suffocate our country. Yet we have resisted the urge to speak out because it's not time for us to lecture. It's time for us to listen. It is time for America to examine our tragic failures, and as we do, we will also see some of our redeeming strengths. First things first there, as we welcome in our third member of the show here tonight, Mr. Brad Hicks. Brad, how you doing tonight? We're sitting here talking about some of the statements made by 45 over the past 5 days. But I literally just read word for word the first paragraph of George W. Bush's statement on the 2nd of June. And literally, I never, number one, expected that to come out of George W. Bush's mouth. But number two, let's compare our past two Republican presidents. For as much as people gave George W. Bush shit for not being able to talk, who sounds more like a leader? Who sounds more like somebody that is ready, that has an ability to lead a country through turbulent times such as this? And I mean, all day, every day, George W. Bush. I mean, eloquently written. I'm not so sure he could as eloquently speak it with his Texas drawl. But, I mean, with that being said, fuck, George W. Bush, number one, how far has he come in the past 12 years, Sean?
Well, I don't think that GW's changed in any way possible. I mean, just an interview that he did just a couple of years ago when he said that, I liked being the president. I had a lot of power, and it was cool. I mean, he's still kind of an arrogant prick, but he's just not as he's not as so much as a loose cannon as Trump is. He was a politician.
I mean, do you think that's the scope in what we're looking through right now? Is George is looking kind of through rose-colored glasses as we compare him to Trump? I mean, you look at G-Dub since he's gotten out, he's pretty much, besties. We like to say he's besties with former First Lady Michelle Obama at all of these state functions and things that they end up going to together. And, it just seems like George has, in his older age, whether it be comparing him to what Donald Trump is doing or what have you, but George W. Bush in 2008, I would never expect 2008 George W. Bush to ever speak out against a Republican. And now it seems like we're getting that moderate, that 2000 George W. Bush back in his mindset back into power. And I could be wrong, Brad. Do you have any idea? Is it just comparing him to what we have with 45, or is George actually changing?
Well, first of all, Sean, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
I was doing great till our colleague here basically brought me in as basically a dick. I am not the third member, asshole. So,
my bad.
I mean, Sean, that hurts my heart, bro. That hurts my heart, bro. He's like, our third member. Yeah, it's me, the dick. Anyway, I'll take it though. Fuck it. No, as bad as I really wanna sit here and shit all over 45, it's because it's not hard to do. I'll be openly honest. I voted for the guy because, and I had this conversation earlier. I voted for the guy because it was the lesser of two evils, in my opinion. A lot of people know me. I have a theory or two on the Clintons. Whether it's founded or not, that's up for debate. But, I didn't realize that we were dealing with the scope of what 45 has become. Or is. I shouldn't say become, but is. The thing that struck me is really appalling is the country is in mourning, over the death of George Floyd, and this dude really is going to sit there and say that George Floyd is looking down with a fucking smile on his face because his fucking job numbers are up? Are you kidding me? I'm like, what fucking planet are you living on, dude? I mean, I've always said, and going back, he's fucking, jeez, oh my God.
No, he's living on planet Trump, where everything that he believes is a reality to himself.
And obviously, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, as far as George Bush goes, I don't know if that statement that George Bush gives any vindication to those that may not like him for his presidency and or what he did in his presidency. The only thing that I can say is that, a lot of things were put on George Bush back in the day, like, this president never had to deal with 9/11. This president never had to deal with this, and this. And I will say, in kind of a real small supportive statement to Donald Trump, I don't know how I would handle the onslaught that it appears to be. I mean, they've done not scientific studies, but they've done studies where, he is the most, I guess, hated president in the media as far as news stories go by a ton of percentage. But, I would like to, honestly, I wish we had a way. I'd like to see how George W. Bush would handle the pandemic, and then probably, I guess, Sean, the biggest civil rights movement in history with 50 states and 18 countries, and that scrutiny that he had. Because let's be honest, and I hate defending the guy, but did George W. Bush really get the scrutiny across the board that Donald Trump did, and how would he have handled it? I don't know. That's just playing that devil's advocate side to me.
I would agree to a certain extent. I think that George was like, when you open it up to that, my counterpoint though would be, how would you expect Donald J. Trump to have handled 9/11? I mean, maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's just throwing two different things. But I mean, Sean, I feel like equal playing field as far as what we're doing with coronavirus and things like that. I think Trump would have handled 9/11 quite poorly.
Well, I would agree with that, definitely. G.W. Bush definitely has a distinction in the world as having been convicted of war crimes in several foreign countries by different war crimes tribunals. So there are certain places even GW can't travel to because he's considered a war criminal because of the war on terror.
Right.
Trump doesn't have that distinction, but if he had been there during 9/11, I mean, what a complete shit show we would have had. We probably would have nuked somebody, and probably would be in a lot worse off than we are now.
Oh my God! I'm literally looking at Mike Pence's official Facebook page, and I'm about to tweet out this picture of what they just tweeted. It is a background. I'm going to put this on the American Idiots page. It is a picture of President Donald J. Trump standing in front of an American flag, and it says versus, and Joe Biden is standing in front of a Chinese flag. Are you fucking kidding me?
No, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, this is just a propaganda show for Trump, and he has Fox News behind him 100%. I mean, look at all of his supporters that are online. It's like InfoWars and Breitbart and all the conspiracy theorists. No, this isn't surprising at all. They're going to try to turn Joe Biden into some kind of leftist, progressive socialist, like Bernie Sanders, but they're not going to be able to do it.
Oh, absolutely not. Honestly, we've talked about this, and when we first started, until this issue came out, until the issue with the latest, Black Lives Matter protest came out, I believe we all three are in agreement. We thought that, unfortunately, Donald J. Trump would win another 4 years of the presidency. I'm not confident in that anymore. I think a lot of people are seeing for the first time, and somebody made a good point. Obviously, this has been an issue for a very long time. And go ahead and call in if you have an opinion on this, 347-989-1171. This has been an issue for a very long time. But the unique thing about George Floyd is the perfect storm came together. COVID-19 happened, and really we are a captive audience. We had no ability to turn a blind eye this time. We were shown it over and over and over again. And I believe that's why we are seeing this. People are no longer able to turn a blind eye to this. And when they see these things, now they are pissed off. Now I learn about people like Breonna Taylor, who there's a couple quite a few Louisville police officers who need to be sitting behind bars right the hell now for murder. Not just, and I mean, that's honestly a situation where I could say first degree murder in that case, because they fucking issued a no-knock warrant. They fucking carried it out. There was obviously planning there. There was just bad intelligence. Well, you fucked up. You should be in jail. But we're getting off the point here. I think that this is the perfect storm coming together that is going to help Joe Biden to become the 46th president of the United States.
I don't think so, man. I don't think that that's actually going to happen. As much as I would love anyone other than Trump to be in the White House, I don't think Biden has the leadership skills to do it. He's already lost 2 presidential elections. He's ran for president twice in his career, and he lost both times. And I don't think he can pull it off a third time. I think there is no difference between Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton as far as how they are going about their election cycle right now. I mean, I think Trump's a shoo-in at this point, which is fucking sad.
That's certainly very depressing thought. Brad, I mean, is there anything, you say he's a shoo-in, Sean, is there a possible somebody like Lieberman, for example, was going to be for McCain? The reach across the aisle potential person that he could choose as a VP to potentially maybe pull some of this Republican support off of Trump and bring it into his camp.
Well, I mean, you had the perfect storm in 2016. You had a presidential candidate in Donald Trump that said he wanted to basically drain the swamp. He wanted to get rid of all of the, the leftovers and fire this thing up and change it. And I think that was a message that a lot of people were like, I personally could get with that. Big, and I'm not a big Mike Huckabee fan, but I was very in favor of Mike Huckabee calling for term limits on both Congress and the Senate, and I still believe that should happen. I don't believe that you should be a 30-year veteran of Congress and or the Senate or anything of that nature. I think that you need to recycle and cycle through and get new blood in there. But the thing about Joe Biden is I look at these, here's a guy that said 10 to 15% of Americans are just not very good people. And then he goes on Charlemagne the God show, and he says, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. And I look at statements like that, and being that I'm not particularly right, I'm not particularly left, I look at statements like that, and I question where the call out is not been for things that he says like that. And as we get closer, let's be honest. I think this is the now, but I think that this is all going to kind of, like the others, it's going to slow down a little bit. The news cycle is going to change. The closer we get to the election, we're going to probably be focused more on the politicians and not the the social issues, which happens every time. It's not right. But I think that there's going to be an attack on the things that Joe Biden has said. And, of course, Donald Trump there's not going to be anything different. He's going to continue to be ignorant. But I don't know. Like Sean said, man, I don't think Biden is presidential material. And to be honest with you, the only way that I can see that Donald Trump is not elected is you're going to have that Obama-type numbers from the African-American community, from the Hispanic community, and basically from the non-white community, because you're going to have some kind of support. Because right now what you're seeing is you're not seeing the Trump vote being accounted for in the polls. What you're seeing is just basically a lot of these universities that have liberal-leaning professors and such and ideology they're polling right now. But and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but right now you're not seeing that surge of Trump supporters that's polling right now. And so that's the thing. And the only other thing I can say, if Joe Biden wants to win the presidency, is he's going to have to go the complete opposite of Hillary Clinton, and he's going to have to go into the middle of the country. He's going to have to take that middle and go to the outside, because it's already been proven with the Electoral College in place. You can't just take California, you can't just take Florida, and you can't take Texas. And yeah, you're going to get the supreme numbers, but you're not going to get that small contingency of votes that nickel and dimes your electoral number to that magical, 270, 277? I thought something like that.
270.
So Biden's going to have to 270. Biden's going to have to take the Trump approach and try to get that group and sway them to his side. And I just don't know if he's powerful enough, strong enough to do it, or he's going to have to hope that these latest social inequality issues drive that younger African-American vote back to the polls like it did with Obama, because I'm a firm believer that Obama could have put anybody up there other than, a well-known supremacist or anything like that, and would have won the election in a landslide, because the idea of having our first black president drove that vote that we haven't seen before in U.S. history, in my opinion.
I mean, I can certainly see that. I mean, Sean, do you think there's anybody on, and we'll call them Reagan Democrats, Trump Democrats, whatever you want to call them. Do you think there's anybody on the left right now that is an all-star enough to possibly pull in those swing voters that could possibly swing it? Because we still don't have a VP nominee from the Democrats yet.
There's absolutely no leadership on the Democratic Party. None whatsoever. No one emboldens anyone. No one inspires anyone. No one has any courage to speak out and say the things that they need to say. And it's a sad day if you are a moderate to left-leaning Democrat or even a progressive. I mean, people should have known from the beginning that the DNC was not going to allow Bernie Sanders to be the nomination. I mean, it's just not going to happen. They burned him out the last election cycle and put Hillary in. So, again, Joe Biden, you know, the nomination, you might as well just hand it right back to Trump. You know, some people even say it's been designed this way because the Democrats that are in Congress, they're enjoying the hell out of this because they're getting just as rich as everybody else.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to throw a quote at you that came by, and it was big news this past week. And it goes a little something like this. Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people. That, of course, from four-star General Mattis in attacking Donald J. Trump. Now, we talked about this, you know, Donald J. Trump, General Mattis, George W. Bush, Colin Powell, all sorts of individuals from the right. Once again, you see this, and we did see this in 2016. The right almost condemning, or the stars of the right almost condemning Donald J. Trump. You still don't see anybody, you know, like Marco Rubio, anybody like a Mitt Romney. I haven't seen anything on Mitt Romney, minus the fact that he joined the protest yesterday, condemning Donald J. Trump's message. But you are still seeing those Republicans that are defecting towards the left because of this man. How much effect do you think that literally has on the electorate as a whole? Do you think it actually has an effect that somebody like General Mattis, who I'm sure me and Sean, you know, can speak to how big a deal General Mattis is, but does it translate to the general voting public?
It doesn't to me. The way that I see the General Mattis issue, and I don't know, Sean may have a difference of opinion on this, but the only thing that I see on the Mattis situation is I see a guy, the way I see it, and I'm not saying he's not telling the truth, but, you know, of course, Trump comes out in October of 2019 and blasts him as the world's most overrated general. So to me, the way that I would view it is like tit for tat, because, I mean, Mattis was praising some of the president's things before all the controversies surrounding him resigning happened. Now, am I saying that Mattis isn't correct? I'm not saying that at all. But I think that you're going to see a large contingency of the voting population is going to look at this and go, well, here's the ex-wife that loved her husband when they were together. He was the greatest thing in the world, but now that they're divorced, he was a sorry, cheating piece of shit. That's the way that it just seems to happen. You know, I'm not saying it's right, but, you know, realistically, that's how that's going to be spun. And it's already being spun that way. I mean, I listen to a lot of conservative radio because that's pretty much all you can gather on you know, terrestrial radio these days is conservative stations, and that's how they're spinning it.
Sean, do you think there's any sort of translation that could, with these high-profile Republicans coming out denouncing Trump, do you think there could be any sort of translation to the generic voter?
I don't. Like I said, there's no one in the Democratic Party that actually inspires people or motivates people to even, you know, grab the moderates or even the right-leaning moderates to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go with this guy because I don't like what's going on over here. A majority of the people that vote for Trump, you know, are pro-life. And he has come out and he has said that he supports a pro-life stance. And that right there alone is going to convince people to vote for him. And there is a huge pro-life movement in this country and people that support that. And they don't care about all the rest. All they care about is their pro-life stance, and that's what they would vote for.
So, question here. We talk about the cult of 45 and, 45 and how he's kind of got these sheep that follow him and don't really pay attention. So, obviously, we talked about how he used tear gas and other less than lethal methods to clear out these protesters, to be able to walk to a church to show off and just hold up a Bible. All he did was hold up a Bible. He didn't go in. It came out later that the pastor came on CNN and he actually said that Trump hadn't been to church there in over 6 months. What does this do to the Protestant movement that really is Trump's base? Obviously, this was something used to fire up his base. Hey, I'm going to be here and I'm holding up a Bible, and I don't know why the fuck I'm holding up this Bible, but yay, Bible. Do you think it worked, or do you think it could possibly backfire? Because, we do talk about them really not investigating anything, and they just kind of blindly follow the leader in this case. Is this a situation where they will look and see the bigger picture of what happened and listen to the pastor or the priest who came out and said, you haven't even been to church here in, 6-7 months, and he came and did this. I don't appreciate this, is basically what that church came out and said. Or do you think this is
hold on a second.
Going to turn a blind eye?
Well, first off, you have to look at the context of where he was at. That was an Episcopalian church, which is a liturgical type service. Okay, when you're talking about this particular Protestant church, it's not an evangelical church. This actually is kind of like Catholic light. So most evangelicals hate Episcopals. Okay, just as much as they hate Catholics because of the creeds that they follow, things that they do. So they will dismiss anything as far as what the Episcopal Church says. The extremist right-wing evangelicals are going to do whatever Trump says. He is Jesus to these people. He is the second coming. He is the third Messiah, and they love him. Just look at your Facebook feeds here in Arkansas. Check out THB, KARK, KATV, Fox 16, and just look at the religious people that throw their support behind Trump. It is a cult. They worship the dude. It is fucking sick. It really is.
It absolutely is. And I think that's the scary part, is that they won't look outside of the fact that, oh, here's my president holding up a Bible. That's the kind of guy I like. Once again, we got to keep comparing him to his previous Republican counterpart, and I can't think of anything that G-Dub ever did that was anything like that. That was that fucking crazy. But Brad, obviously you've kind of widened your scope. You're not the traditional Trump supporter. Do you believe that somebody like, let's say, one of our mutual acquaintances, Dano, do you believe that he will be able to widen the scope and look and see the events surrounding that picture? Or will he just see the picture and go, fuck yeah, Trump?
Well, if you, you can follow guys on Facebook like that, and they have their opinion, and they're going to be behind Donald Trump 100%. Okay, just be honest with you. Had a conversation this afternoon with Danny, and like I was telling him, the economic plans to me kind of sold me on Donald Trump, because I feel like there's a segment of the population that the Democrats go after. There's a segment of the population that the Republicans go after, and then there's everybody in the middle there and I'm not just saying, I'm not going comparative on on a median income average, but I'm just talking about, this $25,000 to $75,000 range here per year, where it's like, fuck me, we're on our own, and so guys like that, he's going to sit there and defend Trump and go after, anybody that opposes Trump's views. Like I've told him before, it's very hard to support a guy who does the shit that he does and says the shit that he says. I understand that, in 2005 he said, I'm going to grab him by the, this, that, and the other. Where that's not even remotely the right thing to do or say, and you condemn that statement and that at that point, I gave him a pass because I was like, and it's not right. This mentality is not correct, but transparency and honesty is what I'm all about here. So, I'm going to own the shit. I said it. But, that's, I guess, locker room talk is what they've described it as, and unfortunately it does happen. So I guess as a American male, I kind of was like, whatever, fuck, dude, we've all said it, or at least a majority of us. I'm not saying everybody, but so you look past that. But the whole, like I said in the beginning, how the fuck do you defend the fact that a guy is smiling down now that he's dead, looking at the job numbers? Who gives a shit? I don't give a shit if unemployment. I don't give a shit if the employment rate is plus 75. If I'm dead, there's two options whether you believe or not. The first option is nothing exists. You go back to nothing. It's dark shit. The other option is that you're spending eternal life in a place that, who gives a shit what the numbers are? You don't care. So to be so bold and embraced about his statements is absolutely insane. But like I was saying, I'm rambling, I know, but Trump, the supporters for Trump, the diehards, it doesn't matter. Unless he comes out and he says something absolutely ridiculous towards them, like if he made a statement about, well, I've never had an alcoholic beverage in my life, so if you're a drunk, you're a piece of shit, and he acts on that, it doesn't matter, man. And that's just one example. It doesn't matter, dude. I don't think there's any way you can sway the mind of a diehard Trump supporter, unless they're reasonable and they actually put some thought process into it. And I'm not saying that they don't, but I don't see it, because I will tell you this: I didn't believe in any of the racial shit or the transgender shit or any of that LGBTQ anti stuff, but I can't support a guy that just keeps running his mouth like he does. I can't.
Well, you have to think about his base too. These evangelicals that follow him, this Trump 45, most of them believe the world is 6,000 years old, and that we're living in the end times, and that the Antichrist is alive and living on this planet right now, getting ready to start the new world order, and that the COVID-19 is a conspiracy to get, microchips put in us as the mark of the beast. This is his Cult 45 evangelical base. This is what they believe. This is what they're pushing out on Facebook and Reddit and, all the different social media platforms. So they can't be reasoned with. Scientific studies have shown time and time again, it doesn't matter how many facts that you show someone, 9 times out of 10, that person's going to double down in what they believe, just out of pure ignorance and spite. And that's sad. That's really fucking sad that you cannot show someone an empirical fact to change their mind. Most of these people deny science too. Look at Pence. Mike Pence thinks the world is 6,000 years old, and he's the vice president of the United States. Come on. These are the people running our country. This shouldn't be.
So, gentlemen, we promised that tonight we would give a little bit of a talk on the Black Lives Matter protests and things like that. Definitely don't want to, undercut anything, but I'm done talking
well,
about
Michael, before we transition, Sean, I wanted your opinion on this here as well. I'm actually looking at, I don't know, does anybody know the Mercury News? Do we know that shit? Is that legit?
It doesn't sound
thing?
Something called the Mercury News?
The Mercury News.
Okay, this was an analysis
San
by
Francisco
Chris.
Bay Area newspaper.
Okay, so this is an analysis by Chris I'm going to butcher the shit out of this. Cillizza. He is a CNN editor at large. But this is pretty interesting now. So amid the protest, let me see when this article was written on June the 5th. We were talking about Biden going to the White House, and so this is interesting to me. Amid the protests following the police killings of George Floyd and the ongoing fight against the coronavirus pandemic, something very important has been overlooked. President Trump is now a decided underdog to reach the 270 electoral votes he needs to win in the fall. So here's where it gets interesting. Here's a series of polls in swing states and not so swing states released Wednesday makes this reality plain. A Fox News poll in Arizona shows Biden leading Trump 46-42. Another Fox News poll in Ohio has Biden 45, Trump 43. A Fox News poll in Wisconsin, Biden 49, Trump 40. And a Winnipeg University poll in Texas had the race at 44, Biden 43. Now, here's the question. How bad are those numbers for Trump? And then he said to put a fine point on it, it's really bad. The last Democrat to win Arizona at the presidential level was Bill Clinton in 1996. In Texas, no Democrat since Carter has won. So what he's basically saying, though, and this is the interesting part here, is Trump got 306 electoral votes in his 2016 win. Now, here's the scenarios and all the calculations made via 270 to win. If Trump loses Texas and wins everywhere else he won in 2016, he still loses to Joe Biden 270-268. If he loses Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin and he wins everywhere else like he did in 2016, 278-260, he loses. Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, wins everywhere else, he still loses 279-259. If he loses Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin and everywhere else that he wins in 2016, 276-262. And if Trump loses Arizona, Ohio, and Wisconsin and wins everywhere else in 2016, he still loses 271-267.
Well, Brad, this isn't necessarily earth-shattering news, and the reason why I say that is because even back in 2016 on election night, if you remember, he has a very narrow electoral map to become victorious. But, he was able to pull it out.
Well, I understand that, but I think we now have a clearer picture. And I think, Sean, and I know we need to move on, but I think Sean would agree that we have a contingency. The elephant in the room right now that we don't know that unknown, that X factor that could actually do this. And I think this is, Van Jones on CNN the night of the election, at the end or the day after the analysis, he said it was white lash. I can see that to a degree, that I think that after 8 years of Obama, that you could have had a potential white lash and Trump was elected. But now we get to see. This is where the protests are fine and dandy. They're great. They're awesome. But the most powerful thing you can do as a Black Lives Matter group or a social inequality group, or for social equality, but, rallying against the inequalities that exist, is you get out on November the 3rd or 6th, whatever the hell day it is, and that first Tuesday in November, and you vote. You make your voice known, and you put the people that you believe can bring that change about, you put them in office. That's where we'll see how legitimate this call for social equality is. And if you go out and the numbers are there and you vote and you still lose, then to me it still shows that you put that effort for it. And that may be the most off-base comment that I've ever made, but if you let your voice be heard in November, November's where we remember. We've had protests before.
I've always said this, Brad. I think that, I've always been the first person to say if you don't vote, then I don't want to hear you complaining about the situation that the country's in whenever you didn't go ahead and exercise your right to possibly change the outcome. Obviously, here in Arkansas, there's more than likely not going to be much of a change in the outcome. It's probably going to continue to be red. But still, if you go out and you vote, you never know.
Yeah, you're right. But, Sean, I don't know if you agreed with what I said or not, but to me, November's where you remember that's the biggest voice that you have. Because you can rally about change all you want to, but if it's falling on deaf ears, it doesn't matter. It's just like a guy wandering through the desert and he runs into a guy with a shit ton of water and he goes, man, I am thirsty, I'm parched, I haven't had a drink in 3 days, I'm dying. Well, if this dickhead is a stingy ass bastard and he doesn't want to give you a drink of water and he just looks at you and goes, sorry, I can't do it. But now if you strong arm the dude by your vote and you force the guy to give you water, then you drink. I guess would be the analogy that I'm saying. You have the biggest weapon for change and against change in a bad way or a good way is your vote. And it's got to be out there. Those drive the vote campaigns that I feel like they don't really do much. This is where they should start right now. And they should be out there going, look. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, how do you guys feel about the mail-in ballots?
I have no problem with mail-in ballots. Honestly, we do it anyway for absentee voting. Why the hell not? You just have to have it just like an absentee ballot. I believe you should have to have it postmarked by Election Day.
How about you, Brad?
I'm not opposed to the mail-in ballots, and I say this as strictly straight down the middle. If you can ensure that neither a Republican or a Democrat gains an illegal advantage by doing it, I'm all for it. Just like the voting with the machines, we need reform on those as well. The only thing that I really am not 100% sold on is the phone app. I'm just not sold on the phone app because I feel like that is very vulnerable to attack. And if the Russians were in collusion with Trump, like they said, I feel like the easiest avenue to disrupt the voting and or alter the voting would be through a phone app. Mail-in apps don't bother. Mail-in apps. Mail-in voting forms don't bother me because, like we said, we've done them before. Maybe they say, okay, if you want to vote for your mail-in, then here the form is at the post office, or mail them out to everybody that's legally able to vote, of age, whatever, and have them send them in before a certain time. But now there's also a caveat to that too, Sean, that we all know that the post office is a private company, even though it's called the United States Post Office, just like the Federal Reserve is a privately owned bank. Don't agree with either one of them, really. But, Trump's tapped this gentleman, the head of the U.S. Postal Service. So can we really trust that venue? You know what I'm saying? There's so much shit going on right now. It's like, who can you trust and what do you believe?
That's a good point.
It's interesting that you bring that up. Because Trump is already trying to paint a narrative that mail-in voting is highly suspicious and can be manipulated very easily. He said this time and time and time again. He's also started attacking Twitter like mad crazy because they started fact-checking him. So he's done the executive order. Basically, he wants to shut down Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat and all their ability to keep everything as unbiased as possible. He wants to be able to put his narrative out there without being fact-checked at all. And if he loses, and you know, my wife and I were talking about this the other night, if he loses, I believe he will challenge it. I believe he will challenge it to the Supreme Court because he's going to use this as an excuse to try to stay in office. You know, now my wife disagrees because she says, well, he never wanted the job to begin with. It was a fluke that he got it just because people hated Hillary so much. And to a point, I do agree with her. But I think at this point, it's an ego thing. He wants to beat Biden so fucking bad that if he doesn't, he will go all the way to the Supreme Court and try to take the election, just like someone else did back in, you know, 99.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Well, and I'll tell you this, Sean. I will respectfully disagree with your wife's opinion on that, and the only reason that I say that is because I already believe that Trump is setting up for this, and I don't think that Trump at first Trump didn't want the job. I think the moment that Trump decided he wanted the presidency, and I think the reason that he is the way he is today is that famous mic drop at the White House luncheon or dinner or whatever they call it.
Oh,
when Barack Obama looked at Donald Trump and he said the difference between me and you is that I can be called a former president. I think at that point, he made it a point to win the nomination, and he made it a point to be the president, and I think that he is hell-bent on grabbing another 4 years so that he can basically go in his own head, whether he publicly produces it or not. I think he literally is like, you know what? I'm the president too. And I did something that you were, I know that back then Hillary was expected to win, but realistically, you had to know that Barack Obama was going to be the president because of how historic that moment was. And I think that's when Donald Trump said, I got you, buddy. I got you. Oh, you want to talk shit? Okay, we'll see what's up. Because he already told Oprah back in, 92, 88? She asked him, what would you do if you ran for president? And he straight up said, I'd win. You know, that's the thing about it, though, that really is one of the remarkable things about the dude is he just has this way about him, you know, whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny the fact that he makes it happen, you know, when he sets out to do something, you know, and that's not a great thing about him that I'm saying. It's just, I can't say anything, you know, I can't say, well, I don't, because Donald Trump somehow seems to pull it off every single time.
I would
agree.
He
does have the uncanny ability to bullshit his way through anything.
You're right about that. Now, Sean, you mentioned something earlier as we go ahead and pivot towards the protests and an update on that. We got about 6 minutes to the top of the hour. I've actually now seen the photos that you were talking about. And, Brad, I'm not sure. I just shared them to the Facebook page, but it appears that this 75-year-old gentleman that was attacked by the Buffalo Police Department was merely trying to return a helmet to one of the Buffalo Riot Squad members, and he was not only pushed down for his trouble, he was also fucking concussed and left to bleed on a sidewalk. And
yeah, that was some that was some bullshit.
57 members of this riot squad have now resigned from the riot squad to fucking protest the two individuals you see in the video being suspended for their actions.
Hey,
are you fucking kidding
me? I when you watch that video, you know, this guy, and as it turns out, this guy was actually trying to return a piece of equipment to the police. Maybe not this particular squad, but he had found something and he was trying to give it back to them. And this asshole, these two guys, they push him down. He hits the ground and blood starts coming out of his ears almost immediately. Now, what's interesting is you actually see one of the guys stop. He hesitates. His humanity is sparked, and he actually starts to go to help this man. And another cop pushes him, and come on, let's go. And all of those cops walk right by that dude. No one wants to give him assistance. No one wants to help. So if that entire group resigns over this shit, fuck all of them. Fuck every one of them.
Not only should they resign, honestly, I fully support them resigning. I think they should be fired from the police, fucking police in general. That fucking department doesn't need them. They just resigned from the riot squad or whatever. They're still part of the police force in Buffalo. So I think the city of Buffalo needs to go ahead and take some action and go ahead and grow a set and fire these two cops. But with that being said, I mean, I will say this. A conversation, I believe it was with the chief of police there in Buffalo. The gentleman said that the reason why that act occurred was because there are medics that are embedded with those groups, and the person was pushed along to allow the medics to get to hit them. I guess the medics are either in the middle or in the back of the line whenever they're coming in. Still no excuse in my opinion, but that's the explanation we have been given.
Well, I mean, we've seen it for weeks now. While these protests have been going on, police have been shooting people in the face with rubber bullets. People have lost their eyes. Just driving by in their vehicles, randomly pepper spraying people. That one cop up, gosh, I forget where this was at. It was way up north. I want to say towards Minneapolis. He pepper sprayed a little girl in the face, like a 6-year-old girl.
I think that was.
It's just like, yeah. I mean, this kind of horse shit. The reason why people are protesting is because of police brutality. Why would you fucking keep brutalizing people? It makes no sense,
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. I don't even know if you could consider it an excuse or not, but I do know that I firmly believe that there are agitators that are being placed inside these protests by both like Antifa groups and white nationalist groups. And I think that they're causing all the destruction and the violence to occur. And I'm not saying what the police are doing is right at all, but kind of playing the devil's advocate on here so that it doesn't, stick to the same thing. And when we have a little bit of discussion, it almost feels like sometimes that, Michael, you were you were saying that, the riots here in Little Rock, the protests here in Little Rock that were sparked by, tear gassing and everything else like that. Sometimes I wonder if, and obviously these two shit asses here that did that to that gentleman are obviously what I would call rogue assholes. Because I don't think as a collective that squad would have wanted that to happen. You're always going to have some dickheads in the group.
But 57 of them, I think you lose that argument when 57 of them resign over the fact that they were suspended, though.
I'm not saying, but now let's not put that group under the umbrella of all police officers. I'm not saying that in all cases.
Okay, I thought you were saying that this Buffalo group was actually there was a good.
I'm saying if you look at I'm saying if you look at like in New York, Minnesota, Vegas, St. Louis, wherever they're having these massive structure fires, and they're having these these people getting. I mean, St. Louis, the 77-year-old retired police officer, a black gentleman, shot in the face for helping defend a business. I don't think that's Black Lives Matter that's doing that. I think that's this Antifa group, which are a bunch of white pussies. And I'll say it. If y'all defend Antifa, that's on y'all. And these white nationalists who can go fuck themselves and their backwoods racist ass bitches can go fuck themselves again, because I think that they're penetrating and agitating these situations, and they're causing. And I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm saying I almost feel like they're creating a war zone, and the police in certain areas are trying to decrease the opportunity for them to spread any more of their bullshit. And I think that's when, right now, and I know it would be frowned upon, but that's when these peaceful people need to find these people inside these protests, and the first motherfucker that throws a brick through a wall, beat the shit out of that guy. Because he is absolutely destroying your fucking concept and your message. I know that's violent. Fuck me, but quit fucking up the message that needs to be out there.
Brad, we have seen videos of, and we're about to go to break real quick, so I'll let you respond after the break, but we have seen videos where these individuals are blocking cops who get separated from other groups to protect them from these agitators, where there are people that are protecting businesses that are out there protesting, and they go and they line the street and they protect the businesses to make sure nothing happens, to make sure that the narrative doesn't go negatively. But I'll let you guys respond in just a moment to that. We're gonna take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with the second hour of the American Idiots after this.
Each and every Thursday night, join Mr. Team Bring It and Nappy Boy as they bring you the Heels for Life podcast, a look at professional mainstream wrestling and all the headlines surrounding it for the week. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your one-stop shop source for professional wrestling news and rumors. It's the Heels for Life podcast, live every Thursday night right here on Talk Radio 49. Every Monday night, join the bad guy, Brad Hicks, the money man, Michael Carnahan, and of course, the pretty boy, Sean Castleberry, as they bring you your humorous look at all current events going on in the world. It's the American Idiot Show live on Talk Radio 49. Tuesday night, join Michael Carnahan and Lisa O'Brien for the Clear and Convincing podcast, live on Talk Radio 49. A look at the most important cases in the country's history, not from the court of public opinion, but from the eyes of the court, every Tuesday night, live right here on Talk Radio 49. Michael Carnahan here, once again telling you it has never been easier to listen to your favorite Talk Radio 49 shows on the go. If you have iTunes, you can go ahead and subscribe at iTunes at Talk Radio 490 or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, you can go on YouTube, the American Idiots Podcast, or you can go to the Clear and Convincing Podcast if that's more your style. We have something for everyone here at Talk Radio 49, and it's never been easier to keep up. live from the Talk Radio 49 studios in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's Bad Brad Hicks, Money Mike Carnahan, and of course, the pretty boy, Sean Castleberry. It's your weekly look at humorous top headlines and current events. It's the American Idiot Show.
And we're back in for hour number 2 as we are continuing our talk about the Black Lives Matter protest and giving our update. Now, Brad, before we went to break, you mentioned, about the Antifa and the other antagonist groups within that are finding themselves worming their way into these otherwise peaceful protests. And I counterpointed that with the videos you've been seeing on Facebook and all sorts of social media, where you see these productive protesters that are actually, for example, I've seen pictures of cops that get separated from their group that these protesters will surround to try to make sure they're safe and get them back to their group. Or you see the videos of them trying to protect the businesses, stopping individuals. I saw one of a younger Caucasian gentleman throwing things through a business, and one of the protesters comes up and reads them the riot act for what he's doing. I think you see a lot more of that than you do these. I don't think that's getting equal coverage, I guess I should say. Not that you see a lot more of that, but that it's not getting as much coverage as what you see these, antagonists getting.
Well, I think, well, first of all, did we do the show June the 3rd? Was that the day that we did the last one?
We did it, yes, June the 3rd.
Okay, sorry, I had a little production meeting inside the show, but I'm working on a screen for the YouTube video. But no, I don't think that counteracts my point at all. I think that what you're seeing, these fucking fires. I mean, Sean, I don't know if you saw it or not, but a gentleman that I work with is a 45-year-old black man, and he showed me pictures of the do you remember the AutoZone building, Sean, that burnt to the ground? I think it was one of the first buildings that went up in flames during the protests and the riots.
Yes, the AutoZone University, I believe.
Okay, well, they've got this guy on camera. It's a white dude, and he's got a full-on respirator, not a mask, not an N95 mask. I'm talking about a full-on respirator with the 2 ports like you would see in like a painter's booth, a legit expensive respirator. And they've got him walking down the street as well, and it is a probably 40-ish age white guy. And he set that building on fire, and I think that sparked this whole deal. And then as you hear the reports of Antifa members moving in to these hotels all around Little Rock and St. Louis and all these places, and then you have The Shield, which is a piece of shit organization in Mountain Home that's a white supremacist group. Fuck you. And I hope you're listening. I don't give a shit. But straight up, I think that the message is being clouded because they're changing the narrative of these peaceful protests into a bunch of people looting and stealing. And I think to add to that point, and if you guys want to expand upon it any, I think that you also have a group of guys and people that aren't with that, but they're the 20-ish-year-old group that just doesn't give a shit, and they see an opportunity to take advantage of the situation and go get some shit that they want from the stores. So that's where the looting comes from. I think you have a segment of the population that goes, oh, we can use it. They obviously don't, to me, they don't care because they're committing violence against, themselves and on the streets. And they see this opportunity now to go loot and get that television that they wanted or whatever they can pull out of the store. Then you have the group that's actually even more sinister in their actions is they're taking this great movement that Black Lives Matter, and they're taking this great movement and they're absolutely shitting on it because they're going, well, They don't really care because, they'll kill a 77-year-old retired police captain, or they'll shoot a cop in the back of the head. And I don't think that's the primary protesters doing that. I think it's these infiltrated groups. And I think the news is covering them. I think they're just not doing a good enough job. Either that or the people aren't willing to listen to what they're trying to say, because I gather from the news every day that we have this group of people in here. And that was one of the things that when I was talking about 45 the other day, I just was like, your wording is what's kicking your ass right now in your statements. Yes, Antifa to me is a bunch of punk-ass thugs that have no business being involved in anything because they don't go about shit the right way. They're a bunch of anarchists, privileged fucks that, to me, find a way to get down here. I should say find a way. They've got money. They come down out of state. They stay up in hotels. They fuck shit up. I mean, it's evident when you look at the reports on the news that you have 80-something people arrested and only fucking 12 of them live in the state. I mean, the writing's on the wall in front of you. If you want to see it and depict the information out and decipher what you want. I mean, it's fucking there.
Sean?
I would like to see empirical evidence that actually supports that Antifa is actually infiltrating the Black Lives Matter movement. Because I don't see that. Antifa is not an organization. It doesn't have a head. There's nobody that's, putting money into that. A lot of people think George Soros is behind a lot of the stuff. Antifa's an idea more than anything, and people rally behind the name. There were people, during the last protests that we had that were following, going out and saying they were a part of Antifa that clearly were not, but they were kind of caught up in everything that goes along with it. And those same people now are with this Black Lives Matter movement and aren't with Antifa and are not making that claim. So again, I don't think that's happening. Now, are there some people that are infiltrating groups and trying to start problems? Yeah. There are anarchists that want to do that, yes, but the police have historically been known to do this as well, is to infiltrate groups and to start problems to try to discredit movements. And that's been going along since, people have been protesting. Hell, even Victor Hugo wrote about that in Les Miserables during the French Revolution. That was happening back then when the French police were trying to stop the French Revolution from happening. So we do know that police use that as a tactic. But have they caught any police doing that? No, not at this point. But, they suspect that it's happening because a lot of the people starting a lot of the, damage and the fires and things like that happen to be white people, which is really weird. Why would they be doing that if they're not Antifa or anarchists? It could be some cops. But again, we don't know. I don't want to make that claim and say that's exactly what it is. It's just an idea of what it could be.
Absolutely. And that's certainly something to keep a look on. We had an issue with somebody over the weekend or last weekend that we thought was actually an FBI informant. And he would walk around saying weird things and trying to get information from people. But, obviously no proof, so, it is what it is. We never approached the gentleman. We just went off that he was weird. But, going on, we still kind of have the protest talk here. And a lot of people are saying, what is the protest accomplished, things like that. The number one thing that I've seen that it's accomplished, now the Minneapolis City Council over the weekend, actually on Sunday, announced they intend to fully defund and dismantle the city's police department following the police killing of George Floyd. Now, obviously we have a bunch of people who are worried that say, what are we going to do now? So the question was actually asked by Chris Cuomo to Lisa Bender, the president of the Minneapolis City Council, And he says, would someone still respond if 911 calls? And she says, if something is happening, there needs to be someone to call. We need to make sure every single person in our community feels safe, but we have a crisis of confidence in our police department. She says, we've looked at every reason that folks call 911. Why are people in Minneapolis calling for hope? And we're starting to pair what's the right response to those calls in the short term. That helps our police officers focus on the work they're trying to do. Well, we have a better response to people. We have a mental health crisis or a physical health crisis. It looks like they're trying to address the people that are worried about this. But, Sean, how do you feel about police forces being dismantled?
Okay, so there's some confusion in all of these claims being made about dismantling police. I know that they're trying to debudget the police, and what they want to do is they want to debudget the police. They want to cut the budgets and demilitarize the police. They want to take away all the armored vehicles, the assault weapons, different things like that. And what's kind of crazy is that since the protests have started, Minneapolis has banned chokeholds. Officer Chauvin has been upgraded to second-degree murder. Dallas has adopted the duty to intervene that says that if you're a cop and you see another cop doing something that's wrong, you are required now to stop it, especially in the inappropriate use of force. The New Jersey Attorney General said the state will update its use of force guidelines. In Maryland, there's bipartisan work groups of state lawmakers announcing police reforms. So these protests, even though there has been some violence and some property damage, they've brought about some pretty positive change. Now, again, when you're talking about reducing police budgets or getting rid of the police altogether, I don't think you can get rid of the police. I think that's a foolhardy idea. But I do think you can cut budgets or redistribute budgets so you could re-educate these police and train them and to teach them how to de-escalate situations instead of always trying to push this aggressive, assertive, you have to do what I say now or I'm going to, we need to stop that.
Absolutely. And one thing I will say is the language being used is that they definitely in Minneapolis have dismantled the police department. Not defunded, but dismantled the police department. But with that being said, Sean, it's almost like we've talked before, there's a lot of military veterans that become police officers after their careers are over. It's almost like you're going to have to completely reprogram these individuals, I will say that much, to be able to get them to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's just like what they do to people that join the military. They deprogram you from being a civilian to being, a soldier. Well, we need to deprogram these people from being aggressive to being, assertive and to de-escalate situations instead of being the aggressor and escalating violence in situations.
Well, if you look, though, at the larger push to defund the police, it's about more than taking that money away. It's actually a push to reallocate those funds into these social programs. Because according to this USA Today article that talks about the defunding movement, what they're also wanting to do is to reinvest some of that money back into the black communities. And also what this Christy Lopez of the Washington Post had talked about was basically that they want to shrink the scope of the police responsibilities and shift most of what the government does to keep us safe to entities that are better equipped to meet that need. Now, I don't know if they're talking about, I don't know who you would you hire, kind of like they've done over in Iraq and in some of these military zones where they go out and they hire these private contractors to police the cities. what exactly does that mean? Giving it to other entities that are better equipped. That kind of makes me nervous to a degree. I'm not saying I'm going to.
I forget, Brad, exactly what city it was. I want to say it was Los Angeles, and Mayor Garcetti, who's taken a lot of hits on the chin, almost like Frank Scott, who's also a Democrat in the city of Little Rock. But Mayor Garcetti in the city of Los Angeles, I believe, has not only pushed to move, I want to say it's an astronomical number, the $185 million out of the police force. But in addition to that, he has implemented civilians being able to look, he has mandated civilians being able to look at body cams as mandatory, and an independent civilian review board to be able to monitor police activities as well.
It just, I don't know. This one here, Sean, really is one of those situations where I don't know. I'm really at a loss as to how to handle that situation. Other than, they say that training has done nothing but show us that law enforcement and the culture of law enforcement is incapable of changing. And you hear statements like that, and I'm not sure that's necessarily correct in the aspect of if you put 300 people on a specific job and 5 of them consistently fuck up, does that, I know it does reflect on as a whole, but I know that did you say that, okay, those 295, if they know they're fucking up and they don't say anything, they're just as fucked up as the bad cops. I get that. But I just look at it as, you've got, I don't know, Michael, if you were old enough to remember, and Sean, I know you're older than I am, so if you remember it or not. But, do those assholes in Texas that drug the African American behind their pickup truck, in that very heinous crime, does that reflect on myself, you, or Michael because of what they did? It shouldn't, because I think in all situations it's an individual's decision to do what he's done. I watched a video. I finally got to see the video of the actual scene of the crime, and I call it the scene of the crime because I think that George Floyd was murdered. And I saw where they put him in the vehicle, and then Dickhead pulls him out the other side. Now, I know that he fell down initially going into the vehicle, and he puts up a little bit of resistance going into the vehicle because he's claustrophobic. I'm fucking claustrophobic. And police cars don't give you much room in the back seat. Been there, done that. And so if he's fruiting out a little bit, what I saw didn't warrant what he got, period, point blank. But I'm trying to figure out why asshole opened the door and pulls him out the other side. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's his decision. That shouldn't reflect on the police as a whole, because I've seen too many police officers doing good things. I've seen the Coral Gables police kneeling and praying with their African-American brother and sisters, as they say. They've kneeled, they've apologized. So I think that...
But at the same time, Brad, in a lot of cases, and I don't know if you've seen this or done any investigating, can't see in those videos, but in a lot of cases, an hour later, they're the ones that are firing the tear gas and the rubber bullets at the same protesters they just showed camaraderie with.
I can understand that point to a degree, but if I could play devil's advocate without getting torched here, did they just open fire on them, or did somehow that cell activate itself, I guess is the best way to say it, and then you just have that, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to illustrate that really.
I understand what you're saying. Was there an action that provoked the response? And I will say,
not from the peaceful people. Not from the
Right.
peaceful people. Let me put that out there.
that are out there
It'd
to
be
start.
like, I mean, because I guess the only logical thing that I could explain to it, and Sean, your opinion would be greatly appreciated, but if we're all gathered in a group and we're having a conversation and we're protesting something, the fact that you have a small penis, whatever, I don't know why we'd be protesting that. Sounds great. If somebody jumps in, I'm sorry, I had to bring a little levity to this whole thing, but
No, I haven't laughed in a while. Thank you.
well, I mean, I would be at that protest because I have a small penis too, and I'm pissed off about it. But we won't go there either. But let's say somebody comes in and they're like, we're all having this powwow. We're doing the genitalia dance. We're having a fucking great time, and all of a sudden here comes asshole A who's worked his way in there, and he finally goes, fuck this shit, and he grabs a brick and he starts tossing that motherfucker. Now, I feel like at that point, if there's enough of them, how do you know what I'm saying? How do you, in the heat of the moment, and I think that's what I try to wrap my mind around when I think about this is I look at how shitty it looks. But I also look at those moments that I've been in. Michael, I don't know if you've been in them. I guess the best comparative notion is in wrestling. When you have your spot, and that's your spot, you know what your spot is. And nobody listens to our show that listens to wrestling, so fuck kayfabe. But you have that spot. You know what I'm saying? And I've done it. I've been out there many a times, and the shit's broke down, and you have to ad-lib. You know what I'm saying? In that heat of the moment, sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you make a bad decision, but you have to act on the variables that are presented to you in a split second's time to stop what could escalate into a bigger picture. That's not condoning their actions. That's just saying.
So I think, Brad, my biggest problem with that would be the firing, and once again, I can only speak for what I witnessed here in Little Rock, but the firing upon the medical tent, and then also, if you know that this person's out here breaking windows, go arrest the person breaking windows. That doesn't mean fire upon the people that are sitting there kneeling or sitting silently on the Capitol steps. I mean, Sean, I don't know if you have a differing opinion on that. Brad, obviously, go ahead and respond.
I mean, I can't, Sean, I'm sure, I don't know, you may be able to. I can't respond to the medical tent situation because the only sides that I've heard it from are those in favor of the protest, and I'm not saying that I'm not, but
right.
I like to formulate an opinion based on the fors and the against and take the bullshit out of it, because you can tell what's bullshit and what's not bullshit. Really, I can,
right,
to a degree.
Right.
And so I want to hear what's for and I want to hear what's against. If I hear one side, in a heated moment like that, because, let's be honest, Sean, maybe you've seen it too, but like when Michael went down to the protest and I'm reading his Facebook post, I'm like, this motherfucker got hacked. Because I've never heard that dialogue from Michael. You know what I'm saying? I've never seen that.
Right.
That
right.
passion. And so I know that, especially in a heated moment, you may unintentionally miss something or not seen something. And so
right.
It's hard for me to make a comment on a situation that is completely 100% accurate, because I just haven't seen the news story on it, and I haven't, all I've seen are those that were down there that were a part
right.
of that movement that already had that passion. So.
Right, true.
Well, no, you're right about that. And what people should realize is that violence is a tool. Violence is a tool that can be used by anyone. Now, normally those that use the violence are the ones that get discredited. Okay? So take, for example, Gandhi. Way back in the day, it was 1948, I believe. and he started his peaceful, nonviolent protests. He knew that the British government were going to murder some people. He knew that people would die, but he told them and taught them, do not fight back. Peaceful protest. Now, this is before the internet. This is in the 1940s. He was able to inspire an entire nation as big as India, okay, to actually go on strike, and he toppled the entire British Empire. One man did this. Michael, quit working out, you fat bastard. I can't hear myself think, okay? Anyway, violence, again, is a tool that is used by people to discredit other groups. So the police, like I said before, have used it by infiltrating groups and starting violence. Other people have, antagonized the police to create violence coming at them. So, for one thing that is universal, though, is the medical tent situation that Michael brought up. Generally, under any rules of war, you leave medical personnel alone. Michael and I know this because we both served in the military. It's part of the Geneva Convention. You see that Red Cross, you see that Red Crescent, you don't fuck with those people because they're there to help people. And they're even willing to help the police or the protesters. So for them to go after them and attack them.
That's something we actually said Sunday night was, even police, if we're going to fly that Red Cross, even if police come, we have to help them. And I completely agreed with that statement. I apologize, Sean. Continue.
No, I mean, that was about all I was going to say, is that we know that you shouldn't fire upon medical personnel in any given situation. It happens in war, but it definitely shouldn't happen during a protest. That's just ridiculous. And the fact that happened, I have to say that I do understand why you would have been so, enraged at the moment and passionate about that, because you understand the rules of engagement in warfare.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing, somebody responded back, well, how many protesters are following the Geneva Convention? It doesn't matter. Your police, in my opinion, we don't expect ISIS and the people that we are currently fighting in the Middle East, we don't expect them to follow the Geneva Convention and all that. We would hope that they would, but we don't expect them to. It's because the people in police and people in military being held to a higher regard, in my opinion. Maybe that's just a veteran in me.
But
right.
Somebody actually responded, who's following the Geneva Convention?
Somebody
fucking
responded and said that?
Following the Geneva Convention.
Well, let me answer that real quick. Let's be honest. The Geneva Convention is fucking retarded to me, and I've never understood it. Maybe you guys as military can understand it, but to me it's war. And I've never associated a playbook with war, but you don't fire on a fucking medical tent. Even the Geneva Convention, whatever fucking rules you do, the medics are supposed to be a neutral, unbiased group of people that are there to help anybody and everybody that needs assistance, especially in a protest, because, whether you're there for the Black Lives Matter movement, once you assume that medical role, like you said, you have to just be there for the group as a whole. So, I don't know. I mean, goddamn. My bad.
I mean, I agree.
Well, a lot of people don't understand what the Geneva Convention is. And the Geneva Convention rules of engagement were created because, people used to use flamethrowers inside bunkers to burn people to death in war. And that's just inhumane because it takes a long time for people to die that way. If you shoot somebody with a particular type of bullet and it rips through them and kills them, fairly quickly, well, then that's a more humane way to die. Another rule of engagement, paratroopers. When paratroopers come out of a plane, they're extremely vulnerable when they're in the air. And according to the rules of the Geneva Convention, no one should fire upon a paratrooper, but you can shoot their equipment.
Right.
That's the caveat right there.
As soon as they where they become active.
Right. So basically the rules of engagement in the Geneva Convention they're supposed to stop atrocities from happening so that honor is kept on the field of battle. So, two men are facing each other, they can kill each other with honor, and it's not just genocide. It's not just people raping, women in a village and all the atrocities of war that happen. They're ground rules for basically saying you should follow these or else you're a war criminal.
Absolutely. And that's, like you said, Sean, I think that may be the veteran in us. But, I mean, the atrocity that you fire upon a medical tent is what really, that will always stick with me, is the fact that we were held to such a high regard. Why would the governor of the state of Arkansas, and I'm putting it squarely on his lap, why would the governor of the state of Arkansas authorize such action and such use of force? And the reason why I put it on his lap is because literally the police came up to us Sunday and said, if you are medical, you must identify yourself as medical. And you can't, go on and move forward if you want to identify yourself as medical. That's perfectly fine. But why would the governor ask us to identify ourselves and then do something like that?
Hey, Michael, whatever you're doing, stop doing that.
I have no clue what I'm doing, Matt. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm literally just sitting here.
Okay, there was a whole bunch of background noise.
Oh, I apologize. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I would have to, the buck stopped somewhere. Obviously, we blame Trump enough on this show, so now Asa Hutchinson is going to get some of this. And Asa, this one falls squarely into your lap because it was the National Guard and the state police acting under your direction. Yet again.
I mean, I'd like to make a comment about it, but not fully getting the full scope of what occurred. I feel like that it would be disinformation for me to really speak upon it. Other than, the state police, I can almost understand him involving the state police to a degree. But as far as their actions go, without really knowing the full realm of what occurred, I will, for the betterment of the conversation, I'm just going to have to respectfully, until I can find out a little bit more range of what actually occurred, I just feel like it'd be a disservice to our listening audience for me to make an opinion on it,
Right, and that's respectable. I can understand that, but, I mean, some of the things that man authorized over the past week, it bothers me. I mean, the group, there's things that he did, though, that I can understand. So I'll take for example the fact that when the protests moved to the governor's mansion, I noticed very quickly that there was a strong police presence within those gates. And just like the President of the United States, the governor is the highest elected official in the state of Arkansas. It's their job to keep him protected at all times. So I can understand something like that. But
hey, hold on a second. Everyone knows the highest elected official in the state of Arkansas is the coach of the football team of the Arkansas Razorbacks.
There you go.
That is true. Well, now I can say this. I will say this as far as the police presence at the governor's mansion. I don't necessarily have an issue with that on the idea of the governor of Arkansas. Is all joking aside, he's one of the highest, the highest political officials in the state. And,
right,
absolutely. And they have said that there was a credible source that said there were, threats made towards high-ranking political figures. And with what has been seen in the past, whether it's the agitator, I say whether, in my opinion, the agitators, when you have a peaceful protest going on, I don't think, maybe you do, but it's not hard to infiltrate that movement and then set up your own personal agenda. Let's be honest, a single man acted in accordance with another friend and blew up a fucking federal building in Oklahoma City. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Supposedly,
assuming you believe the government narrative, and I'm not here to get into conspiracy theories because I know that there are people that don't believe that, but it's according to the government's official record, one single man killed President Kennedy. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not attacking the police presence. I'm agreeing with that. I understand that part.
Well, no, and I mean, but, like I said, like I was saying, and if you believe the narrative that's being out there, that 20 hijackers that were on a list actually learned how to fly airplanes on U.S. soil just to attack the American people back in 9/11. So it would not be hard in a very unorganized, uncontrollable situation as a protest can be, with that many people down there doing the right thing, for this cell of people to come in and get away with shit. And, there's no metal detectors down there. So who knows what they could have had on them. I mean, I feel like if you don't, there's so many of you. I mean, I could carry my pistol down there right now. And if I don't bump into a cop, and especially in a heated moment like that, they're not going to be as willing to go after you as the local police department. State police don't give a shit. You could do anything. Take a shot. You know what I'm saying? So, the police presence to me is understandable, and I can definitely see where they could get away with a lot more shit in an environment like that, and it's sad to me that takes away from what's actually going on. And by the way, I actually, before the show even ended, had you the YouTube screen for this one, so I'm fucking ahead of the game, Sean. What's going on here?
You are.
Nice.
Well, hopefully we will have this one up tomorrow night on YouTube. I don't believe I'll be able to get them both up, but I am working right now on rendering last week's episode for the YouTube.
Michael, I absolutely love how you say YouTube like my grandmother.
YouTube?
No, you're just like, we're going to have it up on the YouTube.
Oh, my goodness.
YouTube.
You know what? Y'all just follow
the YouTube. God damn.
But,
I wanted to ask both of you guys what you guys think of J.K. Rowling and the controversy going around her right now. Do you guys know anything about that?
So
yes, where she tweeted.
I haven't seen the tweet. I mean, do I necessarily think you should knock somebody for whatever they want to be? No, but I also don't think that. I don't know. I'm in a weird place on that one.
Well,
get it,
what she has tweeted, and this has been going on for a little over a year on Twitter. She holds a pro-radical feminist view that women are women, that men cannot be women biologically, scientifically. And that's all that she stated. Now, she's been called a TERF, a terrorist, a whoremonger. People have said they're going to burn her books, and she's like, oh, please don't, because every time you do, I forgot what she said. But it was funny because I was following her on Twitter, and she said something dumb about her, book universe, about how, like, trolls die or some shit. But anyway, even Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Harry Potter, came out against her today. And he actually said trans women are real women. And, to me, I'm a feminist and I'm pro-woman. I've always supported the LGBT community, always. Even when I served in the military, I served with a lot of lesbians and gays and, supported them 100%. The whole trans issue, I never gave a shit about until the whole bathroom bill thing came along, and I was a little conflicted when this first happened. You guys may remember that when we were doing American Idiots a couple of years ago, and you know, I've come to the realization, looking at the scientific evidence and the data, that you know J.K. Rowling's right in this situation. That you know men cannot be women. It just can't happen. Now, if they want to pretend and call themselves trans, then that's cool. I don't care. Doesn't bother me. Do whatever the fuck you want that way. But don't try to say that you're a real woman, because you're erasing womanhood at that point. And I applaud J.K. Rowling for taking that stand. Now, a lot of people think that you know, conservatives have taken over, you know, liberal politics by doing this. And no, it's not. It's just scientific reality. That's all it is.
I mean, Sean, here's my thing on that whole take is, and for a while, you know, I have been to, I mean, Michael's, we did some, back when I was affiliated with that organization, we did shows at a bar in Hot Springs. I won't mention the name, but, and then Michael, if you want to mention the name, you're more than welcome to. But it was, you know, it was run, I mean, our organization was booked by an openly gay individual, and you know his roommate and ex was a drag queen, and there were several at that bar show that we did. They promoted drag queen the lifestyle, and they, you know, there was a couple of transgenders down there, but I think the issue that I have with it is that, you know, I don't believe that you should be judged just because you don't want to accept something. If I don't accept the whole transgender movement, if I don't accept the homosexuality movement, but I don't go out of my way to slow its progress for those that do enjoy and live that lifestyle, I don't consider myself a bad person, because I feel like at that point, you're infringing upon my right to have my opinion, just like you have your right to have your opinion. You don't go around saying, well, it's bad that you and a woman made out in public. I don't give a shit. If you want to play tongue hockey with your boyfriend in the public square, go for it. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But I don't have to, you know, and I shouldn't say accept it, Sean. I don't want to sound like an asshole, but you know, if I don't agree with it, does that make me a bad person? I don't go out here and rally against it. I just personally, I leave it to myself, and I say, I don't agree with this. And I don't have to fucking agree with it, just like...
Right.
Again, I don't know. Michael may have a different opinion.
I get exactly what you're saying. No, I get exactly what you're saying. You know, for many years, I was a conservative, and, you know, I actually went out and left Arkansas, and I saw a little bit of the world, and I got to see what the real world was like, and it changed me. It changed my attitude. It changed my opinion about things. So I had to see the evidence for myself. Sadly, a lot of people will never do that. The evidence could be laid out right in front of them, and they will never change their opinion. And that's their issue. That's cool. But, you know, as long as you're not intentionally doing anything to harm someone else, cool. Keep it to yourself. You know, that's all I say, you know. If you feel strongly enough about it that you feel that you actually have to say something, you know, okay, cool. But expect a rebuttal, you know, if that does happen. You know, there's a lot of things about the conservative movement that, you know, I do agree with some things still. But I'm definitely not a conservative. Just some of the things that some of the conservatives do, and I am saying this, you know, very lightly, some of the conservatives do. I do agree with some of the things that they say or do, but not all of them. Not all conservatives are bad people. Not all liberals are bad people. There are good people on both sides, and that's what we have to remember. Just our ideologies are different.
Well, Sean, I think you mentioned something right there that I kind of want to touch on. And I think you kind of used some language that I wouldn't necessarily use. You know, I've always said back when President Obama was in office, I always said there's President Obama the politician and President Obama the man. I disagree fundamentally with some of the stuff that President Obama the politician did, but I think that President Obama, the human being, is a great man. And I think that there's a big difference. I think that the people can't separate the human being from the political party. For example, Mitt Romney. You know, we laughed earlier about how he, you know, was one of the last people we expected to see out there with BLM. But sure enough, you know, yesterday he was out there with them. Whether it be just a political statement or what have you, you know, maybe we are taking it a little bit too far judging these individuals. Obviously, we're not taking it too far judging Donald Trump because he's just a cocksucker, but, you know.
But now see, Michael, that's what I'm talking about. See, like, and this is not attacking you, but just that you brought up that statement you just made right there. I didn't think anything about it. I'm sure Sean didn't say anything about it, but that's how fucking. But I'm saying that's how fucking quickly, and I think that's where I think what you just said identified the major issue that we have in this country right now is that you used the word cocksucker. You called him a cocksucker. And we're talking about LGBTQ. So now if there are any of that persuasion and that orientation that are listening, they're going to be like, well, hey, motherfucker. Well, you know, now you know what I'm saying? I didn't see it that way. So, I mean, you understand what I'm trying to see what I'm saying, Sean? That's where people make statements every day, and people get offended by them. And you know, and
no, I could see where you're coming from because somebody's going to be like, ew, he said cocksucker. But you know the majority of people out there are going to be like, if you don't like sucking cock, that's your problem.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I know Michael feels that way.
What the fuck?
I mean, you know, Louis C.K. has I know that he's weird, but he has a great bit about sucking penis. I mean, it's fucking hilarious. It's like, he's like, I got nothing wrong with sucking cock. He said, and I've just haven't seen a cock that I've wanted to suck yet. I've seen like 23 cocks. And he goes, is that too many? You know, I mean, I think we lose a lot of, everything is so charged, you know, to today's society that we've lost that human element that we've had of, you know what I'm saying? Everything is always dissected. And I think that's an issue with both sides. You know, the African American community will say something, and here comes the mud pit, 33-inch rim dude coming, all right, some bitch, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll say something, and then this group will go, oh, I can't believe he said that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why? Come on. You know, we've lost all sense of oh shit, the fucking word, but you know, it's like everything is dissected now to a point, and it's easy, Sean, if you tweeted something, I'm sure that I could go through there, and if I took the time enough to do it, I could flip that around and make it look shitty, and there would be a group of people that would go with it.
Not to mention,
absolutely.
Gentlemen, I forgot that we're kind of winding down here. We got about 7 minutes left to the top of the hour, and we go off live. So real quick before we hop off, I do want to ask you guys about this. Did you see Arkansas is number one in something amongst all states? Did you guys see that news today?
Is that watching gay porn?
No, it is not watching gay porn.
In your trailer. Watching gay porn in your trailer. Fucking number one.
Yeah. When I saw that on your computer screen, it really made me think that, Michael.
Shame on all of us. Anyway, we are number one. We had the highest jump in COVID-19 cases over the past 48 hours. We have now had 2,000 plus positive cases since the weekend began. And, of course, you know, you hear certain people coming out and, oh, it's all the protests' fault. We told y'all it was the protests. Shame on y'all. Shame on y'all. Not realizing, you know, it takes 2 weeks for the motherfucker to incubate. But moving on. What do you guys attribute this jump in 2,000 cases to, if it isn't the protest, I should say?
Well, I real quick, my opinion of it is that it doesn't shock me. I think the only thing that we've done, if you believe that we truly, and I do, so don't take that statement as a conspiracy theory statement, but I believe there's a pandemic going around, and I think the thing about it is that we've forgotten about it. We've relaxed we've started phasing in the opening of businesses. We've relaxed our social distance standards. I'm not going to say that groups of people that have gathered other places haven't come over here at some point, and maybe a little bit of a spike. I'm not saying that's the full regard, but you take the whole realm of everything together, it's not that this shit has gone away. It's just that it's gone. The news cycle has changed over the last couple of weeks with George Floyd's murder, that we've just kind of forgotten about it. And everybody, the summer's here, and everybody's like, fuck me, I'm ready to go. We've been cooped up. We've had Joe Exotic. Let's not forget. Let's talk about how bored we were. The fucking Tiger King was leading the goddamn streaming service forever, which, by the way, has some great fucking lines in it. Okay.
Yeah, it does. It does. Some absolutely fantastic lines.
Can I just say this? Can I really say that? Have you seen Sean? Have you watched Tiger King?
Yes, I absolutely love the Tiger King.
God damn it! Look, I'm just going to tell both of y'all right now, and anybody listening, if any of you motherfuckers get up at my funeral, if you show up, and you get up at my funeral, and anybody says I put my balls on somebody's face, I'm coming out of that casket and kicking the fuck out of somebody. You're going to see,
dude. It's
going
to happen. I'm going to tell them.
No, it's fucking not.
I'll tell everyone how you put your balls everywhere. Everywhere.
Sean, are you going to sing a song right afterwards?
I sure will, because I don't give a fuck.
I'm just saying, man. I mean, when he said that, he said that in front of dude's mom, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
he said, eye contact with his mom, Sean, when you say that.
Yeah. By the way, I can't even go to fucking Wendy's anymore, motherfucker.
Oh, God.
Joe Exotic.
You mean when these nuts are bouncing off your chin?
No, I'm talking about the fact that I can't order nuggets anymore because that motherfucker in Oklahoma fucked them up for me by saying they were like his golden nuggets. You motherfucker. I like chicken nuggets, and I can't do it anymore because of your fucking ass, motherfucker.
Yeah, that happened to me when I was
way.
watching Honey Boo Boo, and Honey Boo Boo's, horrifically fat mom said that her boyfriend called her vagina a Hardee's biscuit. Hardee's has ruined forever for me.
Let me tell you this. Hey, Sean, you saying that, Michael's quote after you said that, I know he's getting ready to say it, is, I may not go down in history, but I'll go down on you, girl.
No, sir. What I was really about to say, let the history books go. I thought I read somewhere that chick isn't fat anymore. I thought she got some sort of surgery or some shit.
What?
Or was that
meth will do that to you? No, meth will do that to you.
Oh,
true. Dude.
Tigers and meth will make a straight man gay. That's what I learned from that show.
Did you really? Did she? Oh, my God, dude. I was going to go get some biscuits and gravy in the morning, but that's not happening now. God damn it, Sean. Fuck. By the way, I know that I will say one thing, and I put a video out on Facebook, and then all this stuff happened, but I'm pissed off at the chip company for real. That is bullshit, by the way. Sean,
yeah, we still haven't talked about that yet.
That pissed me off. Here's this big-ass bag of chips, dude. I'm like, oh, my God, this looks amazing. And you open it up, and it's kind of like, I guess it would be like sleeping with Michael. As soon as he unzips his pants, you're like, fuck.
Ouch. I resemble
You're like,
that
I'm ready. because Michael's famous hit online is he's like, girl, when I take these pants down, it's going to look like a baby's arm holding an apple. And then it's like, well, shit.
We should have started the show with this bit right here.
Oh, y'all are going to hell.
I mean,
ain't no such place, Michael.
Are we not doing? We're doing 2 hours of hell right now. I'm just saying. Well, I mean, apparently I get brought onto the show as the third member. Fuck that.
That's right. You're the dick.
Can I just call from now on? Can we change the promo? I want to be known as Biscuit Brad Hicks. Fuck it, dude. I'm a third member anyway.
God. I will hook you up. I will make a Biscuit Brad Hicks fucking remix.
All right, if you make Biscuit Brad Hicks, then you are Baby Dick Michael Carnahan.
Oh, my God. I ain't going to be Baby Dick.
No, he is the Ken doll, because once you pull his pants down, flat solid. Fuck it.
Oh, that hurts.
Oh, my God.
That hurts my heart.
Oh.
We got about a minute left. Somebody go ahead and get us out of here.
Hey, Michael, I do have one question before we leave. You do realize in Arkansas that you are safe from divorce as being, unendowed, because that's not a reasonable group, so you ain't got to worry about that from Haley at all?
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord. Who wants to wrap us up?
But I will tell you this. Whoa, first of all, please choose your wording after certain subjects, please, because I'm not wrapping shit up after this conversation we've had.
Terrible.
Sean, I'll give you the honor, Sean, because I'm the third member, so I've pretty much shot my load at this point.
Okay. So for the American Idiots, for Baby Dick Michael Carnahan, for Biscuit Brad Hicks, and myself, the pretty boy, Sean Castleberry, we will see you next Monday night on the American Idiots podcast. Thanks a lot.
Fuck you, Sean.